How many times have you tried to earn something from God? How many times have you tried to do something so that God gives you something, answers a prayer, gives you a blessing? That's what we normally do, right? That's because we are conditioned that way, where if we are to receive something from God, we have to do something for Him in return, or even before we receive something from Him. Do you think that is good news? That's not. That's not. That's a transaction that we are having with God. But the gospel of God that we have is really good news. Why is it good news? It's good news because God did not wait for us to earn something from Him, but rather He sent His only Son, Jesus, to earn everything for us. That's what He did. And in that, He showed us His grace. His grace where He moved on our behalf and did something for us even before we realized we had a need for it. Even before we realized we needed healing, He provided it for us. How? Through the blood of Jesus. Even before we realized we needed peace in our lives, in our families, He provided it for us. How? Through Jesus and the price that He paid through His blood. Even before we realized we needed to be right with God, we needed to be reconciled with God, He provided it for us. How? Through Jesus, through His death and resurrection on the cross. And that is the grace of God. The whole gospel, the whole good news of God is the gospel of grace, is a message of grace. It's not, the good news is not that we have to earn God's love and God's acceptance. The good news is that He has accepted us into His family as His sons, as His daughters, as His children, in love, not based on what we did, based on what Jesus has done for us. And that's what the good news is. Because He knew that we would have never been able to earn that reconciliation, earn that right standing with Him. He knew we would have never been able to achieve it for ourselves, because in our sin nature, in that fallen nature that every man had, we could not qualify ourselves to be right with God. There was only one man who was qualified, who was able to keep all of the commandments of God, the whole law that God had given to the Israelites, and that was Jesus. And in keeping that, in fulfilling that law, He reconciled you and I to God. And that is the good news. The good news is not that the burden is on us. The good news is that He has lifted the burden off us. He has lifted the burden of sin off us. And not just the burden of sin, even the penalty of sin. And in return, what did He give us? He gave us His righteousness, His right standing, His health, His prosperity, His love, His joy, His peace to us. That is the good news.